Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order Last Days of Europe as the Soviet Federation of Western Russia. Now, last video, we stopped this fucking bullshit about libertarian socialism. Fuck that. And, we clamped down on that shit. We have taken control over our party and over the apparatus of a state, and we spent the last video locking down our political tree. Now, we gave the people some little bits and pieces of success, mainly to keep them from shutting the fuck up, and to keep them, get them to shut the fuck up. But yeah, so I took a look-gander and I noticed not building much in the way of factories, and I was curious why that was, and I realized this motherfucker takes up 12.5% of consumer good factories. So that's obviously fucking horrendous. So I'm gonna have to up construction, and that still doesn't do anything. Yeah, this is fucking rough, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if it's supposed to be that high, but, God, that is rough to deal with. We'll do that. Vision for the economy. Zhdanov, deep in the thrall of the latest American rock coming in from his gramophone, was suddenly jolted to the material world by the entry of a towering economy minister, Dmitry Shepelov. In an amazingly measured tone, Shepelov thumbed through the weighty file now on Zhdanov's desk, jumping from talks of telephone networks to obscure policies in 20th Siberia to variables in economic simulation. On the endless birth of the future coming from Shepelov's mouth ended, Zhdanov bolted upward and gave him a kiss on each cheek. Beautiful, beautiful. A fully automated and scientifically planned economy, free of any nefarious influences or chaotic inputs from men. Sheer Russian industriousness mixed with Marxism, with robotics. Yes, robotics. Shepelov, we're going to suffocate capitalism, he exclaimed while throwing his arms upward and then turning towards the horizon of his window, and then do the same to the German shits with fucking computers. Yes, sir. Industrial expertise will begin to slowly improve. And who? I'm trying to figure out what we want to do. I might want to do academic base and research facilities, and then get working on some of these experimental researches, because these I know are going to be pretty fun. So let's go working towards the People Commissariat of Science. Ultravisionary socialism is not just a catchy name. We who believe in ultravisionarism believe first and foremost in the freeing power of science. Scientific progress is key to the evolution of mankind, and just as socialism, it frees the masses from prejudice and superstition. It's only natural that a socialist government is devoted, among many other things, to the pursuit of technological advancement for the betterment of both the state and its citizens. To this end, we shall establish a new People's Commissariat, one where the science is not humbled and forced to bend to ideology, but where we, who do not know, bow in front of those who know. We'll find a way for everyone to know. Well, there we are. Where's my water? My water's on the other side of the room. This is a horrible decision. I'll be right back. Hopefully we won't go to war while I'm away. Oh, we went to war while I was away. God damn it. Okay. Well, let's get to pushing then. I knew that was going to happen. Okay, let's take Orenburg. Did we just lose a guy? We lost a guy. Damn. Do I reload the save? I'll reload the save. I can't let these fucking libertarians kick my ass like that. Fuck that. That was pretty cringe, letting them win like that. I cannot have that happen again. Alright. Take 2. We'll be able to invade right on the tick as well. And they're going war for them as well. We're not doing the best job right now in securing the EuroLeague, although Yuri Andropov was a feared man. Once he was feared by the communist intellectuals, who hoped that they would not be forced to answer for their revisionist ideals. Even now, with the overthrow of Suslov behind the bars of a holding cell, Andropov was still feared. It had been many, many years since he last saw the outside world. The sounds of a crowd, the movement of paper, even the swaying of trees were nothing but a memory. But he never spoke. In spite of it all, he never broke. He waited, just for the time to strike. It was a sunny day when Andropov decided that today was the day. He slipped a rusted down into his shoes. What? And walking to lunch, thrust it into a guard's neck. Blood gushed out, and in the confusion, Yuri grabbed his gun and began firing wildly as he ran down a long, winding hallway. From there, it was anarchy. Suddenly, as if on cue, rose up in a rebellion. A bloodbath ensued, one that Andropov was proud to have helped orchestrate. He laughed as he got to a fence in the courtyard. The watchtower was almost empty after the riot started. Gunfire blazed on in the background, and not wanting to become another cold body, Andropov ran for it, climbing the fence with an energy he hadn't felt in a long time. On the other side, he didn't look back, and as he ran, he wondered where he would go. The forest, perhaps. Zhdanov began his speech to the small crowd of men and women before him. 6 men, 2 women, each of whom was a guiding light in the sciences. Beautiful. We have a Finch's temple then snapped to attention and began pointing at each of the 8 individuals, who ran the gamut from computer science innovators to inventors of cheaper, durable forms of concrete to trailblazing psychotherapists. Finished with his attendance taking, Zhdanov began his promises and hopes. So, I expect all of you to begin a functional, human-guided space shuttle within 6 months. The figure in front of Zhdanov stiffened immediately. Then a few turned sheet white when he finished by saying, "Failure means execution by firing squad. Begin." Once his terror had done its work, Zhdanov guffed. What do you think I am, a Nazi? You are all heroes, who will be treated as such. Caviar and champagne awaits tonight. You'll each continue the beautiful work you've been doing in your own institutions before, except you will now have a collective purpose of popular work. By the end of your tenures, we'll have thoroughly conquered both the mind and the stars. Some scientists were still shaken from your attempted humor, most already loosened up at the promise of luxury and respect. Now began the discussion that would lay the groundwork for tomorrow's Soviet Federation. From the fields of the stars, a new dawn emerges. Research facilities development would begin to rapidly improve. Okay. Now that is nice right there. That is very nice. And we could up that right now, actually. Do we want to do that? We might do that. Yeah, let's get a vision for the future. If we want to truly claim that we pursue the advancement of science and society, then we need to prove it with facts. Our education system is obsolete and underfunded. Most schools desperately need refurbishment or complete reconstruction. By granting more funds to schools and universities and establishing new advanced study courses for our superior learning institutes, we shall not only pursue our visionary of the future, we shall turn it into a reality. Beautiful. Next, let's get some base bleed. Let's see. God damn it. Construction is not going anywhere. Okay, we can finally start building a factory. It's gonna take until 1970 where we can start building it. Let's get all of you guys. There we go. We're starting to take that one fucking city now. It's taking a while, but in fact, it's taking a lot of our men. And we see who ends up taking it first. We do. Will they get Orsk? What's the deal there? Okay, yeah, we got all of it. That works. So we can start integrating some stuff. Do we not control Orsk? What? Let's integrate Ust-Katav and Orenburg. Orsk, can we not? Hello? Oh no, they broke it. God damn it. That's not fun. Okay, so we had to really up our construction budget. Which isn't optimal, but we'll do what we have to do. Let's start with a socialist society. We'll unlock access to decisions that allow for research into experimental societal control and development techniques and related technologies. Let's do it. Some might say that we have achieved our dream, that with the reforms we've implemented, we have created a society whose greatest aspiration is the pursuit of knowledge. Some misguided fools may even claim that we have created an advanced social society. They are sorely wrong. This is nothing but the start. All we have done until now is nothing but laying the groundwork for a true scientific revolution. It will be in the next years that we make our dreams come true. A socialist future. A truly socialist future. A truly socialist world. Forward. Beautiful. For many, the ascension of Zhdanov and his ultra-visionary faction, together with the subsequent establishment of a federation, was something to be celebrated. Dmitry Shepilov had once been one of those people, and then he was appointed to be its Minister of Finance. Every single day since had been an exercise in either frustration or exasperation, and very often in both combined. The visionary initiatives proposed by Zhdanov himself, or by his adherents, if permitted, were 201, utterly insane on a national scale, if nobody but him and eventually few others seemed to realize it. Concepts that should have existed only in university laboratories, that should only have been received small grants, if any at all, were suddenly introduced at the Presidium, assigned a national priority, and allocated billions of rubles. The criteria for which often could be traced back to because the paramount leader had a visionary idea. It was no way to run a small business, let alone a recovering great power like Russia, and Shepilov often felt like the only man willing to say so. The one saving grace, the one thing that he gave thanks for, was the discretion his position gave him. As a man ultimately in charge of implementing financial policy, he could, as much as possible, rein in spending when Zhdanov and his clique were not looking, which, given their focus on devising new visionary efforts, was often. He only hoped he could continue to do so and find some allies besides. If not, he did not know how much longer he could keep it up. The one adult in the room. Damn, I'd like you more if you didn't have that fucking massive hit to consumer goods factories. I'm looking for a one figure to appear, because I know there's one pretty big figure. Oh, there we go. Just as I was starting to speak, Zhdanov lowered the paper in front of him carefully onto his desk, looking up at the aide who'd handed it to him. This is fascinating for certain. Whoever wrote this seems to have a deep understanding of civilization, technology, and energy. The levels of civilization theory is intriguing. He began hauling himself out of his seat, moving to the store of a scholarly paper on one of his shelves, his aide watching intently. So what do you think, sir? Well, quite frankly, his work is impressive. Just fail to understand why you've brought it to me. Certainly the work is a fascinating analysis of the growth of society's past and present, and mastery over energy, but what does this have to do with our goals apart from a pretty roadmap for the future? He seems to me like visionary material, sir. Not just anyone has a keen understanding of socialism to be a true visionary, Boris. I was being very generous when I let you show me this writing. You should at least make it worth my while. Well, here's his next work. It's about how unity and socialism can guide us to the next level of civilization, as described in his writings. The aide slid another paper onto the table. Zhdanov opening it up and skimming for a moment before looking back at his aide. What did you say this man's name was again? Nikolai Kardashev, sir. Interesting. Kardashev. Trust me, he is a genius. He calls it the civilization scale. Kardashev was not proud of what he was doing. When he was invited to speak to Zhdanov himself, he was giddy at being able to discuss science and earn prestige as a true visionary. He had expected a quiet setting, but as he had approached the room, he could hear multiple voices speaking. So with a huff, he listened at the door like an eavesdropper. It seemed to people being briefed on his theory. Effectively, there are 3 levels of civilization: planetary, stellar, and galactic, each defined by the resident society's control over their energy. Type 1 civilizations hold the ability to use and store all of their planet's energy. Type 2 civilizations do the same with their solar system. Type 3 do the same with the galaxy. We, of course, are not at any of these, but as he has said, we may yet be one day. What makes this man a true visionary is he believes we can become a planetary civilization through socialism and cultural unity. Nikolai tensed up as he heard a gentle murmur of approval and discussion. Rising to his full height and bracing himself, Nikolai opened the door to find a small group of men gathered around a table, with Zhdanov himself at the head. Each of them had a copy of 2 of his recent papers in their hands, with annotations scrawled over them. There he is! Gentlemen, this is Nikolai Kardashev. Nikolai, these are my most trusted advisors. It is a pleasure to meet you in the flesh. Zhdanov spoke quickly and moved to usher Kardashev into the room, not letting him get a word in edgewise. Flustered, Kardashev began to respond. Well, I see you are all familiar with my work. I take this... This is not the one-on-one meeting you posed this as, is it, sir? I'm afraid not. I come to you with a proposal, comrade. How would you like to join the State Planning Bureau and lead us forward on this scale of yours? I guess so. Wonderful. Just one last question. Mr. Kardashev, how about a new name for that scale of yours? I suppose I'd be open to suggestions. And there we go. So we're going to have some fun little stuff. Some stuff here to take into. So, the greatest goal of our paramount leader, and of our ideology as a whole, is the creation of a universal socialist society, one that may be expanded to the stars and beyond. The Socialist Society Initiative is the means through which this grand and noble goal shall be achieved. Advances in the field of social engineering, cultural studies, and the encouragement of class consciousness shall be the domain of this initiative. Through understanding and reshaping society and culture, we shall pave the way to this utopia of a future. So we have a couple initiatives we can start looking into. let's look into the Optimized Language Initiative. Initiative to construct an optimized form of the Russian language shall begin implementing linguistic concepts from established synthetic languages. The manipulation of language in order to make certain concepts much more difficult to express is hypothesized that society shall embrace the comparatively simpler concepts with much more enthusiasm, and shun concepts that have been deemed unhealthy to a functional social society. Okay. Yeah, fuck it, let's do it. And, we might want to get working, because I think we can do one in each category. Yeah. We can do one in each category, so let's get working on a psychological revolution next. Psychology has always been overlooked by the capitalist nations. It brings no profit into the pockets of the bourgeoisie, and it does not serve to keep the lower classes enslaved. Therefore, it is useless. We, on the other hand, realize its great potential for the betterment of the people. By studying the human minds and its inner workings, we can create a society where the needs of the soul are as satisfied as the needs of the body. By granting true happiness to our citizens, we shall prove the superiority of both socialist ideology and socialist science. Interesting. The weekly meeting of the People's Commissariat of Science had occurred once again. They themselves had been surprised when Zhdanov himself came to the meeting and told them of their next mission. It would be to prepare a new society, one that is socialist and combines the ideas of the visionary ideals that many of the scientists in the Commissariat hold. A small outline had been produced and made by the scientists, with a large focus on making the country more advanced using more modern ideas instead of the older, more focused ideas that had become made in the eve of the Russian Revolution. The goal of their new mission was to figure out a way for their society to become one that will be a model for all socialist countries. Ideas range from the idea of a unified culture that would surround all socialist countries and would inspire many of them. However, first, they would need to select what they would research first. Would they reach for that idea that they would need to research deep into the ideas of technology that would connect them, such as satellites and high-tech radio? Or they delve deeper into fields such as sociology, where they would learn how to truly influence people and make sure that society that they envision would be the best one for the people that would live in the society. Whatever focus they choose first, it would be either one that would be important to the future of a socialist cause for the visionaries everywhere. For socialism, let's integrate Magnitogorsk. Shepilov looked at the ledgers covering his desk, detailing the mighty works of Zhdanov's ultra-visionaries, and despaired. Despite his efforts, the slow and steady progress of Zhdanov's agenda was impossible to stop. For every insane project he tempered, another was proposed. For every microwave cannon he delayed, a semi-ballistic transport aircraft was put into development. It never stopped. It was as if Zhdanov and his cohorts never slept. And the results presented by the ledgers were clear. Every time they were updated, reserves had decreased. The decree of deficit spending had increased, and the creditors were willing to extend fewer and fewer resources. There was simply no way to reconcile the Federation's budget in order to support such visionary initiatives, while also enduring basic civilian services in a nation still bearing the scars of decades of civil war. But try as he might, he could not build enough support in the Presidium to act as a proper counterbalance. Kardashev and Purtseva would back him sometimes, but they had their own positions and goals to think about, and even together they could not entirely block a proposal. They could merely postpone. And he could not even act in such a way very often, and if he wanted to keep his position at all. Soon Shepilov knew, looking at the ledger, the columns of which were entirely written in red ink, a threshold would be reached, and all skill would not be enough to save the Federation. He just didn't know when that would come. The bills will come due. One of these days. I'm interested in ultravisionary nuclear programs. I'm curious what they're going to do there. Nikolai Kardashev nervously stared at the door to his new workplace, repeatedly reading the plaque over and over in his head. People's Commissariat of Science. People's Commissariat of Science. The People's Commissariat of Science. Just 2 weeks ago, he'd been a lonely man churning out papers on crackpot theories late at night while the rest of the world slept, all the while sitting on a doctorate he thought had been made worthless by Russia's instability. Now he was ready to begin making waves. Taking a deep breath, he mentally prepared to begin his first day before gripping the door handle, twisting it, and entering the room. Nikolai's anxiety rapidly fled to confusion as he stared into his new workspace. While there were the typical trappings of an office space, desks, chairs, typewriters, and so on, the people were quite certainly not what he had expected. Men sat at their desks in plainclothes, frantically typing away at their typewriters. Others were rushing papers to one another, exchanging either veritable novels of conversations or awkward pleasantries as plans were made and theories were shared. Certainly not what he expected, is it? Nikolai turned around to see the commissar himself, who had entered the common area expressly to greet his new hire. No, sir. I'll get used to it. The PCS is a safe haven for Russia's brilliant but, eccentric visionaries. Is that man clipping his toenails at his desk? Yes. Come, let me show you your workplace. You will be helping plan energy, as I'm sure Comrade Zhdanov has told you. Yes, I look forward to it. Returned Nikolai as he was ushered past a shirtless, rather hairy man typing away. That's just Dmitri. It helps him think. I'm sure... Oh, mind that spill. What are we getting into? Whatever it is, I'm down, don't get me wrong, but... certainly different. Let's get, Entry weapons. And we'll get working towards experimental armaments as well, because why not? We may have great plans for the Soviet Union, but our army struggles to match the dimensions of our dreams. With small manpower pool and even smaller industrial base, we can't hope to overwhelm our enemies with sheer numbers. Instead of wasting time on something we can never achieve, we need to focus on the greatest weapons at our disposal. Science. With a renewed focus on technological advancement, we can create a dedicated research team whose sole focus shall be the development of new weapons. By meeting our enemy on the battlefield armed with their overwhelmingly superior equipment, their numbers will melt like snow in summer. Socialist science shall pave the way to supremacy. The fields of physics and chemistry hold the triumphs of the fascist and capitalist powers, made before our grand socialist state had the chance to catch up with their progress. However, there is another field, as critical as these, that has yet remained untapped, the field of psychology. Through the brilliance of our scientists, the Psychological Revolution Initiative shall unlock the true powers of the human mind, establish a truly and inherently socialist field of science, ripe for our exploration. With control of the will and of thought within our grasp, the tanks and nuclear devices of the imperial powers shall not repel us. Let's look towards Project Rainbow Buddy. What? Let's look to the Subliminal Trigger Project. The use of psychoactive drugs, hypnotic suggestions, and psychological triggers, experiments shall be performed into the implementation of sophisticated subliminal triggers into the human mind. Gulag prisoners shall be selected for this project based on high deference to authority and good behavior, and be supervised during the process of trigger implementation. Following this phase, tests on the variety of possible triggers shall be performed with the goal of utilizing process subjects for espionage and the implementation of triggers into the minds of captured enemy personnel for use as sleeper agents. Fuck it. Are we gonna invent LSD? Bourgeois psychologists have merely interpreted the mind. The point, however, is to conquer it. Humanity, especially coming from the womb of capitalism, is wrapped up in ego and pettiness. To build the mind of tomorrow, of the new Soviet man, we must reap the abilities of new innovations to place thought patterns into completely different states. Early research into the psychedelic effects of lysergic acid show promise in inducing altered states unlike anything to be experienced on Earth. In essence, LSD offers cosmic travel years before it's possible. That mind, among the stars, while planted on the ground, is the one we can drive in various desired locations and wipe away the old marks of capitalist life. Excerpts from Mind, Komi, and Ultra Visionaries by A.A. Zhdanov. Psychic research drives forward. We're inventing LSD and using it for science. Oh, this is fucking great. This is insane, don't get me wrong, but I fucking love it. Well, one last doctrine. Where's this one guy? What? Something broke. One of the machines is broken. Well, the Soviet Union has always been a peace-loving nation and has never held another country's rightful land. Superior firepower is an unfortunate necessity in this dark era of fascism and capitalist imperialism. The Experimental Weapons Initiative shall form the spear tip and strong point of our defense against the aggressions from other countries through innovative new technologies and techniques. With the survival of socialism and our society as a whole hanging in the balance, there is no time to waste, no stone that may be left unturned. Let's have the greatest weapon in the quest of peace. A new planned assault rifle for use in rapidly mobile forces shall be tested and deployed in practical trials. The planned Tarkhan rifle is a unique development on important Western bullpup assault rifles with an exceptionally short barrel and lightweight construction. These characteristics make it uniquely useful as a standard weapon for mechanized and airborne forces, as well as special operative units. Yeah, that actually sounds like it might be useful. Fuck. What do we want to do next? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Let's do a vision for the army. Let's work on some army stuff. Our Red Army is still a relatively new institution, forming the chaos following the coup that brought the socialist rule to Komi. The current military force is only intended to be just good enough to carry out offensive operations without collapsing in on itself due to lack of organization. Unfortunately, good enough simply won't cut it. The enemies of socialism grow in strength all around us, and already pose a greater threat than any foe we faced during the reunification wars. To better prepare ourselves for the inevitable wars of the future, the Red Army must be restored to its former glory. A professional fighting force that resembles the very same army that once stood on the front lines against fascist tyranny many years ago. The People's Commissariat of Science had their regular meetings that they had nearly every week. It was more of the same, however, at the end. Something new that was finally announced to them. They would now begin to focus on military advancements. These would range from simpler things such as advanced rifles to more advanced weapons such as laser weapons that could destroy incoming missiles from miles away. Coley had been to many of these meetings. He knew the procedure quite well. However, today was an unusual day. Instead of the regular procedures of meeting and then the sharing of ideas, they focused on the idea of militarization. He saw many of these ideas as science fiction, ideas that only stood in books. However, as he learned more and more from the men who spoke at the meeting, he saw that it was much more closer to reality than fiction. Ideas had been brought up to the men, such as the ideas of high-altitude bombers that could strike enemies from altitudes only dreamt of. These ideas had floated around the men as they worked harder and harder to one-up another. More ideas had been considered, such as powerful tanks that could withstand nearly all the firepower in the German arsenal. While many of these ideas could not be seen as nearly fictional to many people of West Russia, it was nothing more than a possibility for the dreamers of the People's Commissariat of Science for the future. Work on some more tanks for now. Oh. Is that just the autosave? I noticed, my day was overthrown. The regionalist radicals. Ah, yes. was on inspection of a new research facility, one that he had requested to see in his continued efforts to appear at least nominally support the ultravisionary agenda, that Shepilov had his final realization. Sitting in the little cart, being driven around by the facility director, himself an ardent ultravisionary, excitedly speaking of the no doubt groundbreaking research that would occur within, Shepilov realized that he was something of an explorer of a period that would, in time, come to be known as one of abject recklessness, or abject foolishness, of, perhaps, abject insanity. Having personally approved the funding of a campus after expanding his political capital and preventing a proposal for a bullet train bridge from the Kola to Kanin peninsulas, he knew that the resources spent on it could have otherwise allowed for significant increases in agricultural production in central Siberia, a project that could actually benefit the state in concrete fashion both in near and long term. But that proposal had not been visionary enough, and this one had. After all, without this complex, he remembered Shalomé proclaiming with absolute surety, how could they ever produce enough electroconductive fluid to permit exoplanetary mining operations? Oh. As the director continued speaking at him, Shepilov turned at the building, ignoring his words. Would he in time revisit the place as a monument to works once thought great, to those who thought ultravisionary projects an example of the might of federation? Shepilov didn't know. He was only a voice in the wilderness, but sometimes the wilderness could reclaim that from which it had been displaced. He only hoped he could be there when that happened. Look upon my works, ye mighty. I know we don't have any food, but how are we gonna get exofield plant? How are we gonna get resources from exoplanets? Come on. Oh, this is insane. This is fucking insane. I love it. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it is insane. I want to get I might do this and this to get working more army professionalism because we have widespread cronyism, and that's not good at all. Let's do microscale tactics. West Russia is united under the Red Banner once more, but the road to get to this point was bloody indeed. The wars to bring the region under control saw some of the bloodiest fighting since the Second Patriotic War. Despite the Red Army's victory, the constant warfare expressed some serious flaws that will need to be addressed before we continue the reunification. Each warlord the Red Army crushed used different strategies and organized their forces in a unique fashion. We will take into account all the forces we encountered and see if we can incorporate their strength into our own forces whilst avoiding their weaknesses. There we go. Let's do it. Now this is... Caucasia is exploding. Kardashev rubbed his eyes at the bright lights of his desk lamp, revealing the large stacks of documents, equations, and proposals from every bureaucratic part of Zhdanov's scientific apparatus. There were times when Kardashev wished he could take a break to just curl up under a blanket and sleep for a healthy amount of time. But the workload was too big, especially considering he was working 60-hour weeks to begin with. Nikolai blinked, and suddenly an image of Zhdanov's smiling face popped into his mind. He shuddered, shoving it out as fast as it appeared. He leaned back in his chair, remembering the past couple months of his life. It all seemed good at first. Zhdanov, the paramount leader, offered him work on the new space program. Nikolai, a space lover since his childhood in Moscow, took him on the offer. Such a simple time. Then he heard the rumors. Then the rumors became experiences, and experiences became nightmares. So he was assigned to different projects, all somehow related to socialist utopia. And he had done nothing but nod along, sign papers, and do everything to lay low. Sometimes in the dead of night, when the only light that Nikolai had the pleasure of seeing was a swaying bulb in his bedroom, or in the cubicles of a department, in whatever new building he was shuffled into. Nikolai wondered whether he was just as monstrous as Zhdanov, the man who signed off on every damnable experiment he had the displeasure of witnessing. Other times Nikolai wondered whether his actions would do anything in the first place. Would his mother and father, those old revolutionaries, have been proud of him? It didn't matter. They were dead, and he was alive. Maybe that's the only solace he could take in this situation. Just keep your head down, and maybe you'll live. Let's see. Do workers' organizations. Increase the popularity of the government. Let's get experience going up. China modernizes. I think the Orsk button is broken. Microscale tactics. Now let's get working towards renovating military standards. It's often said that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. This was no more apparent than the Unification Wars. Despite having detailed strategies in place for dealing with our enemies, more often than not unexpected developments will leave our command staff floundering and unable to react in time. All the while, our units on the field suffered while their officers panicked, trying to determine what to do next. These individual disasters could have easily been avoided had we implemented a more flexible system of unit tactics. More autonomy shall be given to the officers in the field who will be trusted to improvise should the chain of command break down in the heat of battle. Instead of relying upon orders from on high, officers shall instead count on their own initiative and the tactics utilized by individual units. That actually sounds halfway reasonable. I'm surprised we're allowed to do it. Fear and Loathing in LA. It's different, I guess. God, I came back from I forget if I told you guys, I took a little detour to Los Angeles. Well, Ocean turned interesting. It was Long Beach. It's technically LA, but it's the nice part of LA. One of the nicer parts of LA, at least. It was nice. I had to drive down in my car, which is currently in the shop because the AC is broken. And the AC has been broken for a while, and so I had to drive down there with no AC. And I had to drive up with no AC. Driving down actually wasn't too bad, but driving back up, it sucked. I had to I brought back my friend who was staying down there, and so we had to drive back up. And usually it's not that big a deal, because if you roll the windows down, it's not the worst. It's a little hectic, admittedly, because you're driving down, you have the wind going in your ear, but it's not the worst. But he has a kitten that he brought down with him that he needed to bring back up, and it wouldn't shut up as long as the windows were down. And so we had to keep alternating between, okay, it's fucking hot, we gotta roll the windows down. The cat won't shut the fuck up, we gotta roll them back up. Oh god, it's starting again, what the fuck? And so that was my weekend. It wasn't that bad. I got to have the LA experience for the first time. I enjoyed it. Granted, Long Beach isn't really LA. It's Long Beach. It's its own thing, technically. But, I digged it. I did. The old Soviet Union lost the war due to its inefficient economy. Bukharin instead insisted on a small industry where what he needed was a strong, centrally planned economy centered around heavy machinery and mass mechanization. Now it falls to us to mend his mistakes. By assessing our resources and forming the needed legal framework, we'll lay the groundwork for a new economy, one where the state leads with a strong and knowing hand amidst the difficult currents of the world. There we go. And now we're getting a lot of political power today. My god. Whew. Probably because we're empowering workers' administrations, partially. Still, we might be able to escalate land reform programs. and get working on some more cool stuff from there. New research. What do we want? Let's do AKMs. Let's get them. Could repurpose Soviet infrastructure. Actually, is there anything that could just give us factories? It doesn't really look like it. Fuck. Okay, let's do... Infrastructure might not be too bad. Let's escalate land reform programs, so that decreasing coring time will be good eventually. I can tell you that much. Anywho, we're gonna cut it here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching, though. If you like this video, leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, hit the sub button. I have uploads going up every weekday, as well as occasionally Saturdays. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, leave them in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get and appreciate any feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat, play games, anything of the sort, check out my Discord. Down link below. If you want to send $50 every month, I have Patreon. If you want to see me do sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch, all of which is down in the description box below. Thank you as always for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been DB333, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.